All right, folks, let's have an honest chat about one of mathematics' dirty little secrets. It's called problem decomposition. Now, before you panic and think it's some complicated elitist concept only accessible to those who've survived advanced maths with their sanity intact, let me put your mind at ease. Decomposition is essentially maths admitting defeat. It's mathematicians saying, look, this is too hard, too big, too scary. Let's just smash it into smaller bits and hope no one notices. It's not genius, it's laziness repackaged as strategy. But since we're all inherently lazy, we might as well use it. Factorials, those self-important mathematical celebrities, adore decomposition because factorial calculation, despite its reputation for complexity, is actually the perfect candidate for breaking down into smaller, digestible parts. Factorials want you to believe they're deeply complicated, but really they're about as complex as your Wi-Fi password, intimidating until you actually look at them closely. So why bother decomposing factorials? Simple. Because attempting to calculate factorial of a big number directly is like trying to eat a watermelon whole. Possible, maybe, but painfully stupid. By splitting factorials into smaller pieces, you reduce your chances of choking or, embarrassing yourself in public. Here's a weird thing about factorials. They're obsessed with themselves. Seriously, factorials are the narcissists of maths. They define themselves by referencing themselves. It's self-reference taken to absurd levels, the mathematical equivalent of an influencer constantly tagging their own Instagram handle. Think about it. Factorial of any number essentially says, look at me, I'm just myself multiplied by a smaller version of myself. If factorials could speak, they'd never shut up about how cleverly self-contained they are. Mathematicians politely call this recursive definition. I call it vanity dressed up in mathematical clothing. What it actually means is this: to calculate a factorial, you just take your number, multiply it by one smaller number, multiply that by the next smaller number, and continue until you reach a number so insignificant, usually 1, that even maths can't pretend it's important anymore. It sounds sophisticated, but it's not. It's literally multiplying until you get bored. All right, here's the truth you won't find in most textbooks because textbooks hate honesty. Calculating factorials is embarrassingly simple when you look beneath the surface. Let's break down a concrete example, say factorial of 5. That's right, just 5. Easy enough number, you'd think, yet it's enough to make some people panic. Calculating 5 factorial, wait for it, is literally this simple. 5 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1. Yes, that's it. That's the whole mystery. It's multiplication. But here's where the decomposition part comes in. Instead of being an overachiever and trying to solve it in one leap, you take it step by step, the mathematical equivalent of taking frequent naps. Start with 5 times 4. Stop, relax, have a cup of tea. Multiply the result by 3, take another break, stretch your legs, check Instagram, multiply by 2, another short pause, maybe watch a cat video. Finally, multiply by 1. Congratulations, you've computed a factorial. Go you. Alternatively, if even that sounds too stressful, and let's face it, sometimes it does, you can flip things around and use what mathematicians call the bottom-up approach. Don't worry, it just means starting small and slowly building up. It's maths realizing it overcomplicated everything and quietly trying to fix its own mess. So instead of starting with the largest number, you start with the smallest. It's like climbing stairs from the ground floor rather than parachuting onto the roof and hoping not to fall. You just multiply 1 by 2, get 2, then multiply that by 3 to get 6, and so on until you reach the number you were aiming for. Honestly, this method is so simple it's almost embarrassing. Factorial calculation isn't calculus, it's elementary school multiplication dressed in university robes. Maths hates admitting that though, because it makes factorial seem less special. Now, there's a reason factorial calculation pretends to be intimidating. It grows faster than your childhood dreams die. Seriously, by the time you reach numbers like 10 or 15, factorial results are stupidly big. At factorial 10, you're already dealing with over 3 million. At factorial 15, you're somewhere in the trillions. And at factorial 20, you're dealing with numbers so large they're basically meaningless to normal humans. And guess what? Most calculators give up around factorial 12 or 13 because even machines have their limits. After that, you'll need special software or calculators designed by people who clearly have too much spare time. When you actually try to calculate factorials in programming, you've got two choices. Option one is recursion, the fancy method preferred by people who enjoy looking smart at dinner parties. It involves a function calling itself repeatedly, which looks elegant until it crashes your program because computers hate recursion as much as I hate small talk. Option two is iteration, basically looping through numbers and multiplying them together like a sane, reasonable human being. This is the pragmatic method for people who actually have deadlines, bills, or relationships to maintain. It's boring, but it works without drama. Of course, there's a third option, optimizing to use even less memory, because nothing screams excitement like bragging about your optimized factorial algorithm at parties, right? Just kidding, no one cares. Factorials aren't just mathematical vanity projects, they're actually brilliant for teaching beginner programmers. Hidden within this painfully simple multiplication exercise are several fundamental programming concepts. First, recursion, learning how something can reference itself without exploding. Second, loop structures, forcing new programmers to confront their fear of repeating tasks without copying and pasting. Third, incremental calculations, showing beginners how to build complex results from smaller, simpler steps. Lastly, the essential life lesson of knowing when to stop, which Factorial conveniently demonstrates with base cases. Factorial tricks beginners into learning crucial skills under the guise of simple arithmetic, which is probably unethical, but hey, whatever gets people coding. Quick recap for those who weren't really listening. Factorial calculations are secretly simple and depend entirely on breaking problems down into smaller chunks. Math's version of strategic laziness. Recursive and iterative methods both exist, with recursion being unnecessarily fancy and iteration being embarrassingly straightforward. Factorials grow frighteningly fast, making careful computation necessary, or you'll break your calculator. Beginners accidentally learn vital programming concepts through factorial calculations, which is maths tricking you into education without your consent. Next up, we'll show factorials stripped down to their simplest logic, basic if-else statements, because factorial deserves to have its pretensions shattered once and for all.